Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is an edited replay from a live I did a few weeks ago using the Storybook Spring from Honeybee Stamps as well as the Spring Layering Vines. This is a set that was drawn by my crafty BFF, Dawn Woolslagel, and it is totally adorable. And so we're going to turn it into kind of a soft, sweet spring card. So first tip right here is anytime you have a stamp that isn't connected, when you stamp on, like when you lay them down, they can kind of be a little loosey-goosey. And if you want to make sure that your dies line up with them perfectly, I recommend putting the die down first and then lining up your stamp with that die so that way when you pick it up on your MISTI lid, stamp wheel lid, acrylic block, the stamp is in the perfect position to already line up with the die. If you have the stamps and not the dies, you don't even have to worry about it because there isn't anything to line it up with. And the what is the word that, like, that being a little bit more loose isn't going to affect, like, it's still going to look like a half wreath, but it just won't necessarily line up perfectly with the die unless you make sure that it does. And then I'm going to stamp these in some black ink that's safe for alcohol markers. I chose to color these with my Copic markers, and I stamped kind of like I did the little headpiece for the bunny and then some of the extra flowers that are in there. I'm not gonna end up using those. And actually I have a like a little container for my daughter that I set aside those pieces after I've like stamped them and cut them or like extra die cuts, and then she uses them for her crafts. So I'm going to do the bunny brown. You could do the bunny gray or black or white or, you know, whatever color your special little bunny comes in. I chose to do brown because I knew that I was going to include some blue. And I personally like a warm brown with a blue. I like anything with a blue. Who are we kidding? And so that's how I chose the colors for my bunny. I am going to keep him pretty light. And that's the first thing when we're looking to color pastels or create kind of like that softer spring feel. We still want darker colors because that's what creates the contrast that gives us a dimension. We don't want our bunnies or our flowers to be flat, but we're going to use very, very little of those darker colors. So that way we are still getting that punch of dimension, but it isn't overly dark. So you could see with the darkest color, like I really just put it, you know, under his nose, under his neck. His head would cast a shadow onto his body, like next to his ears, where his ears connect. Remember, we had shadows where 2 points meet. And then moved on to the next, which was my dark midtone. And even that, I did not add a lot of that darker midtone. What you're mostly going to see when you're coloring something a pastel or a lighter shade is going to be your light midtone and your highlight color. We just want to make sure that we're keeping everything nice and light, but you don't want to skip the darker colors altogether because then you'll have no dimension and you will feel like your images are super flat. I totally forgot his body here. I'm going to have to go back and get it. But anyway, so then I'm going to go through and this is the highlight color. This is my E53 and I'm going to blend that out. Now, you can see here that I kind of gave my bunny a little mask around his eyes. That wasn't necessarily intentional, and I'm going to show you how to break it up. A couple of different ways that you can break it up if that happens to you. One of the first ways that you can do is called the tip to tip method. So I'm going to take my lightest color and I'm going to rub it onto that light midtone. That's going to give me a color in between, and then when I go over it, it will help blend them together. you can, if that doesn't work, if that's not sufficient, you can also bring in a lighter color and just kind of add that over. Lighter colors and alcohol markers will lift darker colors. So if you're having trouble getting them to blend, you can grab a lighter color. I will do that here in just a little bit. Here I'm doing this R20, a lighter pink for a blush cheek and his little pink nose. Also the pink inside his ears. And I know that this is going to blend fairly well with the lighter color that I have, that E53. Here's where I decide to bring in the E50, and I'm going to try to break up this mask. You could also use a colorless blender for this, but it isn't going to put any color down, and it's going to really bleach it out. So that is why I do prefer using a lighter version of what I have, just to help break it up. So for my greens, I am going to use the same greens through the entire thing, all of the pieces parts. And so I chose, because I do want more of a, pastel. So my lightest color is a G00, and then a 2, and then a 5. So my dark is actually a mid-tone. And that is the case for most of my pastel combinations, where I want the dimension, but I don't want them to be super dark. And then as I was laying down the color for most of it, I just did like a little dot of the darkest color, especially on the smaller leaves. On the larger leaves, I was able to add maybe a little bit more, like a line or so. But we still want to make sure that we're leaving white space for this highlight color. So the darker shading that we're adding really should just be a simple dot or a line, especially in something that is in smaller spaces. Please don't skip it, or you will not have any dimension. But you don't have to add a lot of it. This is a situation where less is more for sure. And then I chose to make that R20 that we used for our bunny to bring that back in. And so my pink flowers are going to be an I can't remember if it's a 00 or a 000, an R20, and then an R32. So again, my darkest color is still a mid-tone. Or, depending upon what color combination, like an R32 is my highlight color when I color red. So, you want to be looking to see what kind of color combinations you have that will still give you some dimension. And even this, like I could have probably added the flowers big enough, I probably could have added a little bit of an R35 to get even more dimension, but I wanted them to read as pink and not red, and so that did give me some reservations. Don't be afraid to play around with it. Here, I originally picked a YR00, 02, and a 04. The 4 was a little bright, for what the look I was going for. So I ended up switching it to a 14, which is still going to blend really nicely because we have the 0, the 2, and the 4 at the end. This is just going to be a little less a little more desaturated, so it's not as bright, and that's going to help it kind of blend a little bit and read as more of a pastel. I cannot believe it is April. Guys, I truly cannot believe that we are already in April. It feels like it's going by so fast. And it's already going to be Easter. That's why I was like, I know that I did a bunny card. And then I think tomorrow I'll try to get up the kids' cards. If you're watching on my channel, they'll be over there. That'll go into their actual Easter baskets. So I do have 2 more like little bunny cards to share. But that's okay. I'm excited for spring. Even just this week, like it's been the weather has been a little bit wild because it was nice. We had a couple of like 75, almost. There was one day that it was like 78. It was so nice. It was almost 80 degrees out. But then we got like a thunderstorm that evening, which is always a bummer, because then the next day is chilly, bringing in that cold front. But I have a tree that is outside of my craft room window that I can see. And just in this week alone, like this week started with no greenery on that tree whatsoever. And then I had little baby buds, and now I have little baby leaves. And so so much can just change in a week, because already things are starting to look a little bit more springy. I took so you guys know that if you watch my channel that I have 2 dogs, and my old lady, I do try to get out, but I can only walk her to the stop sign and back. Like, she can't walk for long periods of time. But the other one is overweight. The other one's overweight because she do be liking 2 breakfasts and 2 dinners. If she can get away with it, she will be eating up all the food. But we love her anyway. And so I, last summer, with being diagnosed with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, tried to make a point of working out and walking more. And so when the weather is nice, I still do try to get outside and walk. But now I've been taking her with me. And getting out there and, doing more with the nicer weather. So that has been really nice. And then she has been getting more exercise. But she, she's a thick girl. Okay. She is a big girl. I can't pretend like she's not. She's a boxer, what did they tell me? She was a boxer bulldog mix, but she's a boxer pit mix. Anywho, let's go back to the card real quick. So here, this is something else that you can do. We have this nice kind of pastel blue that we've chosen. I can't remember if this is Cascade or Malibu from Spellbinders, but it's one or the other. And then in order to make this a little bit more interesting, but still retain that kind of spring pastel feel, I am going to use one of the stamps in this set to create my own kind of pattern paper. This is Water Hyacinths from Altenew, and it is just slightly darker than my colored cardstock, and I'm just going to stamp this particular flower. It is not the same as the wreath that we use, but it is still in the same set. So it's still the same flowers. Everything is still matchy-matchy. You know how I love that. And I'm going to start in the center and then work my way out to the edges. Starting in the center guarantees that I'm not going to have any gaps. And then as I am stamping out to the edges, I am going to stamp off the cardstock as well so that it looks like the pattern continues on. So anyway, it's been nice being outside, but while I am walking, my big girl, she cannot keep up. Okay. And then she ends up breaking up my stride. Here, I had to zoom in so you could even see this because it's very tone on tone, which honestly is my favorite kind of pattern. So we have been walking and then she gets tired. Like Molly, when she was younger, she would just lay down in people's yards and be like, nah, fam, I can't. See you when I see you. Just leave me here. Go on without me. Emma does not do that, but she does start to lag where she's getting tired. And so because of that, and then she sways side to side. So I cannot maintain my stride because she's walking right in front of me and I am stepping on her and it drives me crazy. But all of that to say, on our little walks, I am seeing hyacinths. Funny that we just saw that, or just that's the name of the ink. I am seeing them in bloom in people's yards, so that's super exciting. Also, Peanuts School does a plant sale, and so I have ordered lots of plants, and they'll be here in the beginning of May, and so we'll have those to plant as well. I typically do not plant annuals. Wait, which one is it? Not a gardener here. Annuals are one time, right? Perennials are the ones that continue to come back. Those are the ones I like to plant because I am not a gardener. You guys know I got the black thumb. And so I don't want to, I don't do tulips or anything like that because I don't want to have to plant the bulb ones every single year. It's just not for this girl. But I will take Jelly Bean to go get some smaller plants for her fairy garden so that we can put that together again and she can play with that. So here, putting the card together, I've just kind of laid this piece from the spring layering frames. I've just laid it there so that I can glue all of my pieces parts to create my little floral wreath around my bunny, that I can do them all as one piece, and then that way I can go back in and pop them up when I am done, everything's glued together. But I think they're so cute. I think it is like very spring colors, very spring vibes. I think it is just, it's a very sweet kind of card. And this is, like, it doesn't have to be an Easter card, because even the sentiment, what does the sentiment say? Like sending spring greetings. Is that what it says? Or wishes? Sending spring greetings. So like you could just send this as like a general little like spring card. And not have to, it wouldn't be necessarily for Easter. But I do think it is super sweet. And now that everything is on there, I am going to go ahead and pop it up so that I can adhere it to my card. So as far as Easter plans go, I went yesterday. My goddaughter, who goes to a Catholic school, they did the Stations of the Cross, and she had asked if we would be able to come watch her. And so Eric was able to take a little break from work and head over there, and I drove out there as well. So we saw her yesterday there. And then Saturday we are going to my dad's house to do Easter with my side of the family. And then Sunday we are going to Eric's parents' house to do Easter with his side of the family. And I believe also, because they're in like a new 55 or older development, they just moved much closer to us, which is wonderful. But I think they're trying to do like a little Easter egg hunt. So we have a lot of things going on this weekend, which will be a lot of fun. And then today our daycare was actually closed, and so she's spending the night at grandma's, which means we get an impromptu date night. So it's already rained once. Hopefully the rain holds off long enough for us to go to dinner, but there's no guarantees, so we'll have to see how that goes. So now that everything is put together, of course I'm going to do my little finishing touches. I added some clear shimmer to all of the flowers. I'm adding some little details into the center of the flowers with my white gel pen, and then I am doing some rhinestones around the sentiment and then around the wreath as well. This set, I should have said this earlier, we're almost at the end of the video. This set is actually on sale for $20 right now, the stamp set. And Honeybee has a lot of other things that are overstock or clearance. The clearance are like the gemstones. They're finding a new manufacturer. So all of their fantastic gemstones are also on sale. So if you are a fan of those, I would highly recommend picking them up. I love them, and I hope that we can find a manufacturer that I love just as much as I love these ones. So that is it. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time. And if I don't see you, have a happy and blessed Easter, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.